asking today is, we want to begin to aggressively implement this plan. And in order to do that, I don't know that we necessarily need consensus from this group, but we really need to ask if there's anybody or any entity here that has opposition to elements of this, because we want to make sure that even if people aren't in 100% agreement, that at least we're not going to be working in opposition to anybody.
If we put, and I'm thinking more and more it should be electric if we can do it, bubbles, so we stop 70% of fish. Shouldn't we be putting an electric barrier up in a couple spots, getting the feds to close the St. Anthony Falls if that's what we need to do? We'll find the $6 million if the feds can help pay for Lock and Dam 1. And the $3 million, Commissioner, it's not locked into St. Croix. Mm-hmm. It was, if I remember right, the Lessard Sam's money's $3 million, and we'll find a way to get more, and we can do it right away in session. But I think we should be thinking about Lock and Dam 2. It does not overflow that often, where if we offer that redundancy to protect the entire Minnesota, I'm sorry, that's my neighborhood. The carp don't go up to St. Croix. The St. Croix is a clean river. I'm sorry. The Mississippi is dirty, and the carp are in the Mississippi and the Minnesota. They don't go up to St. Croix. Why put some bubbles that stop 70% of the fish when we have an opportunity, I think, to really do something? Maybe we're throwing $6 million away, but at least we're going to be trying to do something here. These things are scary, and the whole upper Minnesota, the whole upper Mississippi, I think that's where we should be going. And I guess I would ask, Commissioner, I've asked, and I sent an email again yesterday to your staff, why are we not considering Hastings and the electric barrier as opposed to the bubble barrier?
The recommendations that you see before you were essentially developed by the task force, the technical task force that looked at the options that are out there, and they put forward the recommendations they thought were going to be most likely to succeed. My understanding of Lock and Dam 2 is if you talk about doing a project at the Lock and Dam, typically you're talking about working within a lock chamber itself, and that's a very manageable environment. It's small, it's contained, but the dam itself has the challenge of overtopping, of flooding, because there's a lot of flow going over there in the spring. The gates are lowered, water goes over. You can't control the passage of carp in periods of flooding.
We have been investigating every potential possibility that we think makes sense to slow the fish down. We can do something in the lock chamber, but the reality at Lock and Dam 2 is the fish are going to be able to get through. There's also some potential evidence that these fish can swim through underneath the gates under certain conditions. They're strong swimmers. And so the dams that have gated locks, the dams that are gated, the fish are permeable dams, and there really isn't anything that we can do about that. That's why we have been focusing on the control methods, the research as you move up the Minnesota River, and just the reality, the physical reality of trying to stop them there is almost impossible.
I think that's the important thing, what you just said. On the average, once every 7 years. So if we're rolling the dice, we got 3.5 years of protection. And truthfully, we're looking at a different year than we were last year if you just look outside. And I know it's a roll of the dice, but I'm trying to understand why we would stick $10 million into the St. Croix when they don't even like going up that river, and we're going to throw the towel on the entire Minnesota River when we have a chance for a few years and we don't. And I'm sorry to take up so much time.
No, I think it's the crux of the issue.
I think, Tim, it's $3 million. I just wonder if that's what it would cost, like in Hastings, and as Senator Higgins said, in Lock and Dam 1, and then if we step forward and we're willing to offer it, maybe really Paulson and Klobuchar will get together and start to talk to each other and be able to find a way.
We talk to each other all the time, believe it or not.
I didn't mean that negatively, Senator. And Representative Ellison can all of a sudden say, you know what, we've got the oomph to actually close that lock if it needs to be. Maybe it doesn't need to be if we do these two things. Maybe it's serious enough to where we can. I thank you for continuing, but we should pursue it farther. I don't think just because it might only last for a few years, we should say no. I think the potential benefit for that is so huge that maybe it's worth that risk. And if we're upfront with people and say what it is, maybe it's worth it.
It'd be about the same for any lock chamber that you would work in. So we're looking at $5.5 million per lock chamber that we would want to do this. The St. Croix, because it's a larger system, would be 10 plus million. So we would be looking at 22 million or so approximately to to be able to have the capacity to install these and operate these systems for 4 years.
To look at Lock and Dam 1, Lock and Dam 2, potentially, it sounds like MnDOT might be able to justify 80% of Lock and Dam number 1. So we're looking around $6 million of state money. There is $97 million of Lessard-Sams recommendations before. Only includes $3 million currently of aquatic invasive species or carp specific language. But there is some money on the bottom line, and there is some other possibilities. Maybe we could move that part of that bill faster. That was something Senator Higgins, Representative Hansen, and I talked about, and Representative Wagenius. I didn't want to sound like when I asked about electric, I was just hopeful you were looking at both. You're right. I don't have the technical expertise to know, but the voters did put us, and I don't mean this to sound bigger than the rest of the folks in the room, but they expect us to make decisions and take a chance. I don't think, Tim, that that's your forte to do, but that is what they told us to do. And as Representative Hansen said, that money's there in Lessard-Sams to protect clearly fish, and this is an opportunity to protect. Very good chance it's going to be wasted. We can have that discussion in committee to say this may be wasted, but it may work.